Hi, my name is Brett Tomlinson, and I'm going to be doing a recap of my Action Research virtual poster. So I'm going to be starting with my problem statement. My problem statement is as following. I posed this in more of a question style. It is, how do I keep grade 6 students more engaged in subjects like math and language arts? So I chose grade 6 because that was a grade I had worked with previously. In the classroom I won my placements, and I found that was a grade where a lot of the times they would become distracted fairly easily, and it's an age where students sometimes not only lose their interest in what they're learning, but aren't they have other things kind of on their mind that are starting to develop that you don't see kind of in the younger grades. So I wanted to focus on how to kind of develop student engagement and student participation in that grade to help them moving forward. So again, my research question: how do I keep grade 6 students more engaged in subjects like math and language? So just for some relevant terms, most of my things were fairly straightforward. The one term I did want to define was student engagement. So that term I pulled up from an online source and put it here. In education, student engagement refers to the degree of attention, curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion that students show when they are learning or being taught. So the next part is my annotated bibliography. The first article I chose, student engagement and student learning. So from here I wanted to look at student engagement affecting academic performance, and that students can benefit from being more engaged in the classroom. So ideally I want to find proof that student engagement benefits students in the classroom. The next one, benefits of kinesthetic learning. So children having different learning styles and kinesthetic learning can help these students in the class. Student populations can improve through kinesthetic learning. So kinesthetic learning in this article, it shows a direct correlation to student engagement as well. So as they work through kinesthetic learning, they're becoming more engaged in what they're doing for class. The last one, daily physical activities for the classroom teacher. So this is showing that DPA, daily physical activity, is proven to help students stay engaged throughout the school day. And there's a variety of ways to include DPA in school. So again, DPA, kind of related to the last article, it helps students stay engaged throughout the school day, and this article has points to prove that DPA is effective for student engagement. So the next 3 slides, I'm summarizing these articles. So for the first one, this text explains how student engagement positively affects student learning. The study shows how student engagement can help students' learning and their memory from classes. If students are engaged with what they are learning, then they will be able to remember more from the class. The study also elaborates on the way student engagement can enhance a student's critical thinking. So this study just goes to show the different ways that student engagement can help a student and how it has positive effects on the student's learning. So I thought that was kind of crucial to my study. The benefits of kinesthetic learning. So students learn in a variety of different ways, and unfortunately teachers do not always have a way to teach in different ways. In this article, we learn how kinesthetic learning can help students be more successful in the class. Kinesthetic learning is doing more hands-on activities and learning by doing instead of hearing and watching. The study shows that students frequently learn better through this strategy than any other. So, based on this, it's showing that students are learning much better during kinesthetic learning. The second part is that student engagement is another aspect that is highlighted in the article. They're connecting to the benefit of kinesthetic learning to student engagement. So they're using kinesthetic learning to prove that it's keeping students more engaged and that both of those are benefiting the student. The last one I have is DPA for the classroom teacher. So this article discusses the way to use DPA, daily physical activity, during regular class hours. As the previous article states, having hands-on activities can help students learn and stay engaged with what they are learning. The study shows how DPA keeps students engaged throughout the day. Students do not often get a chance to be active during the day, especially when times get busy. Teachers prioritize reading and math during the school year, and they can often forget to incorporate physical activity. So this article goes to show that DPA is very useful and effective for students to help them learn, but teachers aren't always doing the best job of using DPA during the school day. So this article is just kind of demonstrating that DPA can be helpful for student engagement, and as we've learned from the previous articles, student engagement it is very helpful to help that student be successful in all types of different learning and be successful overall with their marks and grades. My research action plan. So again, now I'm just looking at data for my action plan for my research, and then I will continue into how I'm going to get that data and how that data is going to affect the study. So the first one is called Refocusing the Academic Program Review on Student Learning, the Role of Assessment. So this is just kind of taking data from that source. So I chose this source because it reviews the current academic program while also reviewing how students learn. I think that it's important to review how students learn and how we can change our teachings to help students. I also like how this article reviews the importance of assessment for students as well. Although there are differences in this study compared to my research, I think it's important to see how changing instructional strategies can help students learn. So I'm just kind of looking at the current academic program and then reviewing how students learn and then how that can affect student engagement. The second one I chose is hierarchical linear models, applications, and data analysis methods. So this article keeps data of student success and achievement. The information shows how different implications can affect how students learn. I can use this data to see how students can change and the way that students can be affected by changes to their learning. Using this data, I can alter my questions and the information to ensure it is not repeating what is already out there. So what I want to take from this is seeing student success and seeing their achievement, but then relating that to my research as well. So I want to make sure that I am focusing on student engagement and ensuring that student engagement is beneficial for the teacher and the student. In doing so, I need to include other data that backs up how students learn and how we measure their success and achievement, and make sure that I can incorporate student engagement to have a correlation with success and achievement for the student as well. Triangulation, validity, and reliability. So in terms of triangulation, I wanted to make sure that all the information I was using can relate to my research. Both sources that I chose were related to student engagement and making changes to help the students. So I wanted the data. Data that I found to relate to what is already written. By incorporating everything together, I can make sure I have the best information for my research. So in conducting my research, I want to make sure I'm using sources that are already completed and already written. I think it is important to use stuff that's already out there, and then that can kind of cut back on the amount of time that I'm trying to gather my own research and data by using things that have already been completed. Validity, I retrieved my data online from peer-reviewed sources. I wanted to make sure that I was using data that had some really great research. I carefully went through and selected data I thought was relevant to my topic. So again, just finding things that are important, that do relate, and how I can use that in my study. And reliability. I wanted to make sure that I had some good reliable research. That's why I made sure to check all of my resources very carefully. So I went through a couple of different resources and found the ones that best suit my research. Participants and settings. So who's going to be involved in this study? So for my own personal study, who I would like to involve and how that's going to affect my study. So I will be retrieving data from students and teachers. I will first enter a class that is not using strategies to keep students engaged in the lesson. I will monitor how the teacher is presenting the lesson and how students seem to be reacting to this lesson. I will then ask this teacher to start using strategies to help students stay engaged during the lessons and see how this affects their learning. Most of the data will have to be observational, and I will conduct questioning periods for both the students and the teacher to see how they felt about these changes. I will also attempt to collect copies of marks and comments for every student from before and after the experiment. I will study these to see if the students' marks have changed or if they have gained improvements in their attention or their ability to work successfully in class during the day. I'll be looking for changes in the students' behavior and level of success throughout their marks and ability to work during the day. So based on that, I just want to ensure that I am in the school kind of monitoring how the day plays out and how the students are engaged and what the teacher is doing to ensure that the students are engaged. I want to make sure I get some data before I implement some new strategies. That way I have something to compare my strategies to. So I'm going to be doing a before, a during, and an after monitoring and study just to see how those changes affect the students and the teacher. Participants and setting. So I will be retrieving data from students and teachers. I will first enter a school setting and a classroom where students are not engaged and not using the strategies, and then I will see how the teacher is presenting the lesson. I want to have most of my data to be observational, and I will conduct questioning periods for both the students and teachers to see how they felt about the changes. I will want to collect copies of the marks and comments for every student, and I will be seeing the changes, as I mentioned before, with the student and the teacher. So I think kind of what's a little different about this slide is that I want to be using questioning periods for the students and the teachers, and so that's going to be kind of relating to how I get more information from the participants. Ethical considerations. So how do I maintain confidentiality, and especially for the students in this case? Since I plan on using real work from students, and I'll be looking to get their current and previous marks, confidentiality is very important during my study. I will have to ensure that I am not releasing any of this information and that I am keeping it secure and safe. I will also need to ensure that I am not publishing any of the students' names if I do end up submitting this study. I will need to make sure that I receive permission from the students' parents before I start the study. Any student that I do not have permission for will not be involved in the study. To ensure confidentiality, I will make sure that I take a careful approach to keeping information safe. I will also have to make sure that I properly discard any confidential information once the study is completed. So I think my key thing is just ensuring that I am taking this information and taking this data and using it in an appropriate way, and knowing that this could have an effect on confidentiality, and making sure I'm very diligent and careful with how I use this information. So ethical standards of the study. Since I plan on using real work from students, I'll be looking to get their current and previous marks. Confidentiality is an important part of my study. I have to ensure that I'm not releasing any of this information and that I'm keeping it secure and safe. I will also need to ensure that I'm not publishing any of the students' names if I do end up submitting the study. I will need to make sure that I receive permission from the students' parents before I do this study. I also need to make sure that I have permission from the teacher as well, and that they are okay with me doing this study, and that they're okay with me doing all aspects, so before I implement strategies and after, as well as during. So a timeline chart of the data collection process. So first, I'm going to be taking anecdotal notes. So once a week in the first term of the school, and then twice a week in the second term from December to March. So twice a week to be seeing how my strategies have changed and helped the students improve, and then afterwards to see how well they're still doing once those strategies were implemented, and to see if they're still being used. Teacher journal. So I'm going to take kind of what I'm going to ask the teacher to be taking notes and just kind of doing some weekly reflections so I can include those in the study as well to see how the teacher has viewed any changes. Questions with the students and the teachers. So once a week, again in the first term, and then twice a week from December to March. So I just want to be making sure that I'm asking questions throughout the entire thing for both students and the teacher. My data analysis. So with the data that I collect, I will develop my study and answer my research question. I'm hoping to find out that student engagement has a positive relationship with the students being more successful in the classroom. I will use data to back up my point or to disprove my theory if I find the data shows that. I will analyze the data by comparing data from the first term before the strategies were introduced and the second term while those strategies are in action. I will look for correlation between the data, but more specifically if there is differences in students' grades as well as their participation in work habits. So what I really want to find out is in the second term if student engagement has really benefited those students and if the teacher feels like this is something they would like to continue. For closure, my closing point is that I think this study would help me understand what strategies I could use to help students stay focused during school. I think that a lot of people have their own strategies that they think would work for keeping students engaged throughout the day, but it would be helpful to try these in a classroom and see the results. I think that this study would be beneficial for a lot of teachers and teacher candidates because I know that a lot of us struggle to keep students' attention. A lot of us spend a large amount of time trying to plan our lessons in a way that will be exciting for the students, but some of this can be guesswork. Teachers and teacher candidates do not have the answers on student engagement, but I feel like we can find those answers. I want to be able to give teachers statistics and data that prove what strategies will work the best and how they are used the most effectively. This way, they can become better teachers and give their students a better opportunity to succeed. So really, I just want to find what strategies are best for teachers to use, and I want to use those strategies to make sure new teachers and teachers who are currently employed are finding ways to keep students engaged, and they can continue to do so based on the research that I find.